Welcome to Ladies of Another View. I'm here today with April and Lori, and I'm Patty over on the other end. And later on in the show, we're going to talk about sports and politics. Do they belong in there? We'll talk about that and talk about patriotism overall and the differences between the two parties that you can see a big difference in. But first, I want to welcome to the show one of our favorite guests, Nathan Worcester, who is an Epoch Times reporter. Welcome to the show, Nathan.
Glad to be back, Patty.
And you do a lot about elections and Capitol Hill, but I know you talk about all kinds of stuff. And I looked at some of your most recent articles, and you talked about it. You did an article on Trump meets with Senate Republicans amid push to pass the Save American Act. What's up with that? Because our viewers, we're just frustrated that it's an issue at all. Like, shouldn't everybody be U.S. citizens? Shouldn't you show your ID? Tell us what's going on.
Well, I actually just came from the final House vote of the week and heard from some members about where they are. Actually, one was Dusty Johnson, who was expressing what I think a lot of moderate Republicans feel on this frustration because they, and I think this is a fair summary, they feel like the Senate just does not have the votes, does not have the motivation, has too many other priorities to get this across the line. Now, people who defend the SAVE Act, including President Donald Trump, they will say this is the top priority, that having people be registered who are citizens, having photo ID, all that sort of stuff is fairly straightforward, polls very well. And the president made good, in a sense, on that seriousness that he's expressed by essentially blowing up the Senate earlier this week. Just ahead of a meeting with Senate Republicans, he announced that he would not sign the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, despite saying that he would, to make Save America, this voter election integrity bill, a priority.
Well, I remember when I turned 18, I could not wait to go register to vote. Like, I was so excited, and the first time I got to vote, and I just think it's so amazing. And then I think it's disrespectful to anyone that you think is not smart enough to be able to go get an ID, and it's $5 to get an ID. Like, we have to have an ID. We have to have an ID to get on an airplane. We have to have an ID if we get pulled over by the police. We have to have an ID for lots of things. So to think that we don't have to have any kind of identification, or we're not smart enough to get an identification, and to rob somebody of that joy of registering to vote and being a part of our democracy is crazy, I think.
Along those lines, before you answer, Nathan, I want to ask you, along with what April said, is initially they were saying, oh, this is racist, this is Jim Crow, 2.0, even though the Democrats were responsible for the Jim Crow stuff and all the racism when it came to election. It was the Democratic Party, ironically. But then they tried to say it was sexist, that these women who've been married, now they're not going to be able to vote because they might not be able to prove their name. Because a lot of black people came out and said, what are you doing? You're insulting us, acting like we can't get an ID. I don't know anybody that doesn't have an ID. So, like, what's the holdup now? What is their ploy? All of the above and more, or what?
Well, you'll hear the same sort of rhetoric, certainly from Democrats, from Chuck Schumer, saying that many people would be stripped from the voter rolls and would have to go through. And if they are, in fact, legitimate U.S. citizens who can provide photo ID, they would have to register again, would have to go through that process. And I think the rejoinder would be, well, yes, I mean, the expectation is that people who are registered to vote from the SAVE Act supporters would be, you should, in fact, be a citizen and you should be able to provide photo ID if you're voting. Again, a lot of this stuff, if you compare it to how things are around the world, not so far-fetched, not so far from the norm. But I think that the reality at this point is the Republicans in the Senate, for one thing, they've had this escalating conflict with President Trump over many issues, one being Bill Pulte being named as the acting director of national intelligence, Trump also scuttling a confirmation hearing for his permanent nominee to replace Tulsi Gabbard at that position, Jay Clayton, who's a U.S. attorney. There's been conflict over that, over the ballroom security fund, over the anti-weaponization fund. And then, of course, you have Bill Cassidy and John Cornyn, both still in the chamber, both lost their primaries to Trump-backed candidates. Cornyn, in an especially striking way, unlike Cassidy, he didn't vote to impeach Trump, but at the last minute, Trump throws in this endorsement, and Trump's influence being what it is, and Bill, or rather, I should say, Ken Paxton having the level of support that he does in Texas from the conservative base, John Cornyn was blown out. So I think all of these factors together, alongside the things that you've mentioned, are driving the opposition, driving the concern. And again, in fairness, the sort of talking filibuster, the sort of option that advocates of the Save America Act are advocating for the Senate, people like Mike Lee and Rick Scott, that would take a lot of time. There would potentially be many amendments offered by Democrats, including tough votes for Republicans, things that might just look bad. And then in addition, you could have the floor change hands at any moment if there aren't enough Republicans around. And I think a lot of Americans hear that and they think, well, the Senate should be in there doing their job. But this is the sort of argument that you get, the concern over other things happening in the Senate that might grind to a halt. For example, the NDAA, defense spending, the Farm Bill, various other, I think, less, I should say, less attention-grabbing things than Save America, but all things that have not happened and things that are going to kind of move further into the horizon, assuming that there remains this push for Save America.
I I just think this ID thing it's just getting out of hand because, like you said, I mean, anywhere you go, I mean, even if you go into buy a certain medication over the counter, you have to show ID. You go into the doctor, you have to show ID. There's not really many things in life you don't have to show some sort of identification for. So, but then as we see like all the elections happening, especially California, I've just been fascinated by that mayoral race right now that's happening, and how like that Spencer Pratt was kind of ahead, and then all of a sudden, these mail-in ballots start coming in, and then it just changes who's going to win and who's going to go to the runoff. So, I mean, honestly, isn't that the real reason we don't want voter ID, is because all these mail-in ballots and all these things? I mean, people don't really trust the voting system anymore with everything that's happening.
I do think that trust element is big. Of course, the norm in many states now, I believe Washington State, California has its system, but you have universal mail-in ballots in many places. And we generally have a fairly decentralized election system, which means that many states are able to kind of steer their own course. And people who are worried about the vulnerabilities from mail-in ballots or worried about other vulnerabilities in the electoral system, they'll wonder, yeah, I mean, there are other countries, there are other places in the world where you pretty much have people voting on election day and you get the results fairly quickly. Reasonable question to ask, why doesn't that happen in the United States? I think, to me, what was striking was hearing both a lot of support in the House for Save America, for the president's maneuver, essentially shutting down other priorities in the Senate by not signing that bill. Of course, the Senate just left now for roughly 2 weeks, a little more actually. So that also sort of puts the onus back on, I would say, the people who are advocating for it to ask. It's, I think, reasonable. The Senate was on recess not that long ago, and they're back on recess effectively. Nothing is going to happen now for a few weeks. None of those priorities. Very interesting, I think, to watch this all play out. Also, we don't need to get into it in detail, but we just saw a series of votes on the Iran war powers resolution votes. There was one that really came down against the president as he's negotiating, but then in a subsequent vote on a different resolution, but with the same subject, you saw Rand Paul say, well, I'm going to vote present instead because I want to give the president room to negotiate. And Rand Paul has been a very strong advocate of using the war powers resolution power for Congress to, put some sort of guardrails around what's going on. It's very interesting to see, even as these conflicts are playing out, it seems that on Iran and maybe some other issues, some of those conversations happening behind the scenes with Rand Paul, with Cassidy, with others, might be reassuring the senators, even as they reached a kind of conflict breaking point with the president on that issue.
So I might want to, maybe we can talk a little bit more about that, on the whole thing with Iran and the kind of support we're getting or not getting in Congress. But I also want to talk about the spy power lapses that are happening and what that looks like moving ahead. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Find your path to discovery, adventure, and inspiration in Lemon, South Dakota. Immerse yourself in the charm and beauty of the region's natural resources. Unearth eras of history. Explore the unique attractions and world-renowned creations. Come see for yourself what makes this community a great getaway and an even greater place to make your home. Whether you're here for a day or for a lifetime, you can find your path in Lemon, South Dakota.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
Yeah, U.S. Cattlemen is a member organization that each member has a vote in anything we do with policy. We're representing the independent cattleman or the cow-calf guy or an independent feeder or whatever. We like to support the independent producer. Talking about mandatory ID, we're talking about cool, we're talking about all the legislation that's going to be coming down with the new administration. There's going to be lots of moving and shaking, so always check us out at our website, uscattleman.org.
Come on in and experience small town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. Bassett Motors, where our customers send their friends.
When I first decided to invest in gold, I was a bit nervous and unsure how to start. Luckily, I found Noble Gold Investments. From the very first call, they made investing easy. No pushy sales tactics, no gimmicks, and no confusing free silver offers with hidden fees. Just honest advice tailored to my needs, giving me confidence every step of the way. If you're new to gold investing or want a partner you can trust, visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Welcome to where classy meets Wild West. Buffalo Gypsy Boutique of Bismarck has clothing, decor, and gifts ranging from sophisticated boho style to fun and flashy. Our exclusive brands such as Scully, Double D Ranch, and Tanner Mark provide standout style for the whole family, right down to the little ones. We always have a great selection of Kimes denim, and we proudly offer American-made jewelry and artwork. Find Buffalo Gypsy classing up North Bismarck just off Highway 83.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View, and I want to welcome back our guest who we love having on. I think we have him on at least once a month. Nathan Worcester, who is a reporter with Epoch Times. And a recent article you did is the spy power lapses amid standoff over Trump's intel pick. So strong Democratic objections to the choice of Bill Pulte, you mentioned that last segment, as acting intelligence chief added to the bipartisan discomfort with warrantless surveillance of Americans. Now, we care about surveillance of Americans. What are you seeing?
Well, just to back up a little bit, this is Section 702 of what's known as the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. The FISA has been around for decades, but the addition of 702 was a War on Terror era, fairly recent addition, and it enables the warrantless surveillance of Americans not as the primary purpose. The primary purpose is warrantless surveillance of non-Americans abroad. What it boils down to, though, is people who are in communication with targets under FISA 702, they and their communications, they can be swept up in a FISA-based investigation of this sort. And so there have been questions in the past, for example, about what are called U.S. person queries that are made by agencies, in particular the FBI. Prior to some reforms a few years ago, there were, I believe, tens of thousands, if not more, being made on a fairly regular basis by the FBI, which raises those basic Fourth Amendment concerns, right? And you see people in both parties, I should say. For example, Ron Wyden, a Democrat from Oregon, has raised concerns about this. He, in fact, told me that he speaks fairly often with Mike Lee, a Republican from Utah, about this issue. Yeah, they don't see eye to eye on many issues, but on the Fourth Amendment, you do have some, I think, from parts of the two parties, people who are concerned for the same reason. That being said, we did, it's a fairly long story, but ultimately see something like a continuation of FISA with a few more reforms, but ones that privacy advocates say don't really address the core issues. We saw that moving forward. And then with President Trump's choice of Bill Pulte as acting DNI, acting Director of National Intelligence, the negotiations basically fell apart. In fact, we subsequently saw, after he named Jay Clayton as his pick for the nominee, Democrats and Republicans, some of them were saying, yes, this is a guy that we could get behind. Pulte, they raised concerns about how he doesn't have a national security background or anything similar, service, for example, on a congressional committee related to intelligence. But then President Trump, I think because he was hoping Pulte would come in and, among other things, make some reforms to the office of the DNI, he then pulled the appearance that Clayton was going to make in front of the Senate. And this met with some objections, I should say, from Tom Cotton, the Republican who chairs that Intel committee. But ultimately that went ahead. And so at this point, we're basically at a standoff. FISA has lapsed. FISA has lapsed now for, well over a week, as I understand it. Another little important tidbit to keep in mind, the certifications for FISA surveillance, they come from this thing called the FISA Intelligence Surveillance Court, the FISA Court, which you might have heard about in connection with the investigation into President Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. That was a reason why in the past the president has raised some concerns about FISA, feels that it's been weaponized against Americans inappropriately. But the FISA Court issued earlier this year new certifications that extend actually through early 2027. So in some sense, this whole FISA standoff, it's a real thing, but it's a little, there's a bit of a tempest in a teapot element to what's happening, where I think from where I'm sitting, again, from the standpoint of concern about warrantless surveillance of Americans, it's interesting. You do on the Hill on this issue, but so many others, you see a lot of urgency around an issue and then a push to get something across the line. But those Fourth Amendment concerns, they still seem to kind of fall by the wayside. And even once FISA lapses, as in this case, there are people who have concerns about the national security implications of that, the fact that this could make the country more vulnerable to terrorism or other threats. But we've seen this lapse, and so far the sky has not fallen, and there are still certifications in place, as I said, that go through next year.
So me as just a normal citizen, I don't have anything to worry about, right? I mean, Alexa is always listening to me anyways.
I got to say, I mean, it's one of those issues where I think most likely not, but on many of these rights issues, and perhaps I don't want to sound too biased here, but I'm pro rights. I am pro, pro Bill of Rights. And when we have these areas where, in the name of terrorism or in the name of some other legitimate concern, security-wise, there's a Ben Franklin line that comes to mind about that compromise between freedom and safety. And I think it's understandable when people are concerned that even in the name of something noble like fighting terrorism, we come a little bit closer to people having that Fourth Amendment right set by the wayside.
Well, I always love when you're on because I love to hear everything that you're working on and giving us updates. What else is going on? What other news stories are you working on?
Well, there's quite a few interesting things happening. We were speaking about the Save America Act. There's that continued momentum. Also, there have been some concerns about what is a reported hack of NSA systems. That's the National Security Agency, by Mythos AI, which is a product of Anthropic. And you may recall the dispute between the Department of War and Anthropic not so very long ago. This reportedly was able to hack these systems, these encrypted systems, in a matter of hours. And adding to the concern there, apparently Alibaba, this is a Chinese company, essentially the Chinese version of Amazon, according to Anthropic, has been attempting to, through these queries that they're sending, tens of thousands of them at once, they're trying to very quickly replicate this system. That's how a lot of the AI war stuff works, basically. The frontier labs in the United States, they're about 6 months ahead of China, doing a lot of the original work, but it's really not that hard for for the Chinese competitors to go in and replicate that. And if you have a system this powerful, it raises national security concerns. That said, there's some skepticism that I've heard from experts about this. For example, they'll point out that NSA and similar agencies, they have what are known as air-gapped systems, so they're not exposed to the web. And this hack, if it was able to point out vulnerabilities, things that could be exploited, that doesn't mean they can be exploited, taken advantage of the same day. So I think it's worth keeping that in mind, even as it appears that we're coming closer to serious concern about AI enabling the sort of hacking that could really take apart these systems.
Yeah, I was probably reading about that in Epoch Times. I thought, oh my gosh, now what are we going to do about this? That, you know, it's gotten beyond us, and there were a lot of warnings initially. I think Elon Musk and others are like, wait a minute, I don't think we want to go there, but, you know, the train has left the station. You know, I want to go back to the whole spy situation where, and you brought this up, that there are security concerns, but then at the same time, you have citizens. I think the problem is when the government uses it against its own citizens, like calling conservative parents terrorists at school board meetings and then surveilling them, or when Trump during his election and everyone acted like he was crazy and laughed at him, or at least the left did, and he was right. He was being spied on. He was being, there were devices that were spying on him. And I'm from Dearborn, Michigan, and there's a high percent of Arab population there. And I think it was like in the last year, less than a year ago, that they found a couple guys in the Dearborn area where I'm from, not too far from my neighborhood where I grew up, that were plotting a terrorist plot, and the FBI went in there. But now here they are, U.S. citizens, and you're like, yeah, spy on them for sure. You know, and so it really is a balance, and you almost have to have a certain amount of spying, but you can't have it misused. You have to have some checks and balances, right?
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it does come down to, well, there's these fundamental questions about U.S. citizenship that I don't want to get into, but for the sake of argument, if we're talking about U.S. citizens who are subject to the Bill of Rights, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, that's a different situation than, again, the sort of surveillance, the sort of spying on non-U.S. persons, where a different set of rules apply. There is a set of realities, and certainly an understandable willingness to say, well, yeah, to address these real threats, these real and in some cases potentially imminent threats, there should be some power for the government to act there. But again, with Americans, it does seem as though the point at which we began to really play around with the edges of you know, what makes for an American citizen and what rights does that American citizen have. I don't think that's all that different actually from the broader push that we've seen to kind of delegitimize the nature of citizenship. And so that's an unfortunate thing if everybody ends up being subject to the same non-rights.
Right.
And it's nothing that you in particular are protected by as a citizen. If the concept is cheapened in multiple ways, then it can be maybe damaged beyond repair.
Absolutely. Well, we'll stay in touch with you, and always like to know what you're reporting on. And thank you for always joining us. When we come back, we're going to talk about politics, especially recently in sports, especially recently with the Major League Baseball and the scripture verses on some baseball hats with the Giants, and how that turned out when we come back.
Stop out to our facility, Highway 22 South. Let us build a truck for you.
When there's a storm on the horizon, you typically don't get a lot of advance notice. So you brace yourself as best you can and rebuild when it's over. Times like these are what insurance is for, the protection of our livelihoods, our families, our homes, and our lives. We support our community coming together in times of need. As an independent insurance agency, we tailor our services to your needs. At Dakota Community Insurance, we can help you weather the storm. Talk to one of our agents today.
We are the St. Mary Sisters. We are building a new facility here in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the sake of training young women to be courageous teachers in this state. The sisters will educate the younger generation to be fully alive through truth and discipline. The sisters' life of devotion and joy will make a positive difference in your community. Check out what we're up to, see what's going on, and join our mission to make a difference in the lives of the children of North Dakota.
Let's be frank, it's a pain to be without your vehicle after an accident. That's why you should take it to Jerome's Collision Center. Our shop is supersized and we have the qualified staff to fill it up and work on your vehicle, step by step, piece by piece, in crazy fast time without sacrificing quality. When you need us, we'll turn your bad experience into a good one. We're Jerome's Collision Center and we're the best at what we do.
Hey, I'm Corey Heppola, and I grew up in a small town.
This road used to be gravel.
But a long time ago, I left to live in a big city. Now, I wonder...
Just because we're small doesn't mean we can't have nice things.
What would it be like to move back?
Man, it's mad love up in here.
So, I'm traveling to different small towns across the Midwest to find out. Because what do I really know about rural living? Oh. The people.
If there is anything that you can say about this town, it's that we take care of each other.
The innovation.
So none of this equipment even existed.
And the opportunities.
It's like every year in the spring, there's always like a revitalization of just excitement.
This is my town.
Oh, jeez. You're close.
7 episodes. Sunday night, 6:30 on Beck TV.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View. We're going to talk about sports and politics and a little bit beyond that. So the San Francisco Giants, they had Pride Night and they had their Pride uniforms with the rainbow flags. And so I've heard 3, but then some places I've heard that there were 4. So 4 of the players put a Bible verse up on their hat. Basically, what was the Bible verse? Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. But basically sharing their faith and what they believe in. And they didn't feel like they could get behind and support Pride Night, and it was being forced upon them. So the Giants commissioner said, hey, you can't do that. You're going to be disciplined. And then lawyers stepped in and said, you can't do that. This is religious discrimination. Yep. And so Senator Josh Hawley, of Republican in Missouri, recently challenged the Major League Baseball, MLB, over their warnings to these players that just because they put a scripture verse on their hats. And supposedly you can't write on your uniform in any way. But let's watch what happened.
To be clear, Senator Hawley, it goes so far, as I understand it, as the Giants cannot make their players wear the Pride uniform.
That's correct. I mean, that is what the commissioner, I want to emphasize this.
Just to be clear, Senator Hawley, it goes so far, as I understand it, as the Giants cannot make their players wear the Pride uniform.
That's correct. I mean, that is what the commissioner, I want to emphasize, this was the commissioner of baseball responding to me. He said that no player on any club will be required to wear these kind of political messaging uniforms. And furthermore, no one will be discriminated against on the basis of their religious faith. Now, that ought to be common sense, Will. The fact that we had to go through all of this, I had to threaten to bring him in front of the Senate, put him under oath. He's being investigated. The league is for other things. All of that is ridiculous. It was stupid on the part of Major League Baseball to do any of this. But I'm glad they admitted they were wrong. Let's get back to God and country and playing some baseball and stop all this woke garbage.
Amen.
So, you know, I'm really fortunate as an athlete because U.S. track and field, like I wear a shirt that says Champion for Christ. I race in that. I wear my cross. I can put anything on. I'm really fortunate for that. Even at the World Championship, I'm allowed to do that. So I feel really fortunate. You know, I know there's several times like in 2019, like DeMario Davis got fined for the Man of God headband. Do you guys remember that? Mm-mm. He got fined and then appealed it and they let him go ahead like he won it.
Oh, good.
And then like used it to like sponsor all kinds of things and do whatever, but it's really cute. It's Man of God. So is it, I mean, it is illegal, right, to write any kind of thing on your, so, I mean, I feel like you should be able to opt out though of stuff that you don't believe in.
Correct.
And what they did was Genesis chapter 9, 12 through 16. And it's a Bible verse references God's covenant with Noah, identifying the rainbow as a symbol of divine promise. And it talks about God's promise to Noah after the flood, stating, I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so a rainbow to most Christians is a sign of faith and your promises to God and God's promises to you. And I feel like we should have the rights, like just like in school, to have our Bible, right? Like why can I not have my Bible or the 10 Commandments, but there can be a gay pride flag or a Torah, right? There's a lot of similarities to that.
And they wrote, the only reason they wrote Genesis, 9 through 12, they wrote that on their hat just to say, this is what we believe the rainbow is about, because they made them wear rainbow for Pride Night.
Yep.
And so the baseball commissioner now is saying, you know, just kind of saying we shouldn't have any of this stuff.
Yep.
Just wear your uniform, play baseball. Because it's not fair to force people to wear uniforms. And now supposedly the Giants baseball manager said, well, I guess it wasn't communicated to them that they didn't have to wear it if they didn't want. So apparently they didn't have any knowledge whether that was ever communicated or they just expected everybody to wear it. So maybe we can stop all this stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody, they all want their right to say what they believe. And then it's always that other side that says, well, now, no. But pride, remember that the rainbow, they hijacked it. I mean, as you said, you know, the rainbow emerges as God's covenant sign following the great flood, a visible, perpetual promise that the divine judgment through water would never again destroy all life on earth. So, I mean, that they hijacked it, and they're saying, this is God's word, we're taking it back, and you believe what you believe, but we're going to believe what we believe.
They're saying, okay, you have to wear this rainbow, and they're saying, well, this is what a rainbow means to me, correct. Genesis 9, so that's what they wrote on their hat. Now, Landon Roop, who was one of there were 3 pitchers, and they all put that on their hats, and here's a little quote from him. He says, there's no hate at all. It's just what I stand for and what I stand in. I believe in God. So that's all it was. It wasn't about hate or anything, but a lot of people think if you don't go along with it. And I found it interesting in the aftermath, it was such a big deal, that the Catholic Bishop of the Archdiocese of San Francisco stepped in and said, they have a right to express their religious faith, you know, that they don't have to be silent. They can, you know, that it's a discrimination to say you have to promote Pride Night and what they believe it is, and then not let them say, but this is what I think it is. And here's a little segment, a little quote, or a little news segment on taking politics out of sports.
I hate when people say, yeah, you keep politics out of sports. You can't. These are human beings. These are Americans, maybe not Americans, but politics have been in sports forever throughout history. Athletes have used their platform to support politicians or speak out against politics. It is what it is. Young Jackson Dart decided that he would show up and introduce President Trump. That went absolutely viral. And then his teammate, Abdul Carter, came out and said, what we doing, man? Questioning why his quarterback would go out there and stand beside Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president of the United States, however you feel about him. He's the most polarizing president ever. I'm not gonna get that deep into it. We have the ability to see that video. We have all of these apps to post about it, to write about it, and it makes everything bigger than it actually really is.
But we shouldn't be forced to wear anything, right? Like, I choose to wear Champion for Christ, but if we made all of Team USA wear Champion for Christ, that would be wrong.
Right.
Because I want to respect other people's beliefs, and I believe that they should respect my beliefs as well. Right? And like, we shouldn't be forced to do anything.
And you shouldn't be forced, like you can't tell people who you stand for, or you can't not be involved in politics. I think that's fine, like that news commentator just said. It's fine, like, oh, he met with Trump or whatever. Okay, fine, he has a right to do that. It's when you force everything, when you write, you know, what, BLM on the field, and when everybody has to wear these kind of uniforms, it's like, no, that's not fair, like you said, when it's forced.
I have a question for you guys, because this is going to be a real thing. So I'm going to Worlds, and at the last World Championship, it was supposed to be illegal for political stances, right? Like, nobody gets to have political stances. We're American, and that's it. I feel like, because some people had a flag upside down and even had explicit words on their shirt, which I think is disrespectful, period, right? should those athletes be able to compete, or should they be banned or suspended? Because that's politics in sports.
It is politics. The thing is, if you are representing your country and you bash your country, we don't want you representing
I want to knock
us.
them right off the stand.
That's different from being political.
Where is Worlds this year?
South Korea.
Oh.
Yeah, trust me, I'm not going to put my foot across the line.
Yeah, do not.
But I just really think, I don't think that's okay.
No.
No, it's stupid.
At all.
It's like some of the women's in soccer and basketball that are anti-American.
Oh, gosh.
We don't want them representing us going to other countries. I just think.
How can you be anti-American and put on a uniform
get out of here.
for USA?
So whoever's in charge of the team or the USA parts of things, they should say, okay, it doesn't
Don't
fit
do
with
it.
us. We're representing the United States. You're not, so you shouldn't be here.
I agree 100% with that.
Agree.
Yep.
And even if you don't like the USA, you got to keep it to yourself. You can't publicly
No
trash.
politics.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, along these lines, is there a difference between patriotism between the two parties? You guys know the answer, but we're going to talk about it when we come back.
You know the rule. No phones at the dinner table.
I know, I'm sorry. It's just Noble Gold Investments. I bought some gold for the kids.
Finally.
Well, the gold you bought me gives me so much security in this economic disaster we're having. I want that for them too.
Well, I've been investing with Noble Gold Investments for years, and I'm pretty sure they can wait until after lunch.
Invest in something you can hold. Invest in Noble Gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to learn more.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Find relief for what ails you at Steep Me Tea Apothecary. Teas, supplements, tinctures, and more. Formulated to fight whatever has you down. We're Bismarck Mandan's favorite place to find delicious, natural, and easy ways to alleviate symptoms brought on by anything from colds to cancer. Brew a better you at Steep Me Tea Apothecary. Steep Me products may cause side effects, including but not limited to improved mood, deeper sleep, enhanced hydration, renewed sense of smell, increased energy levels, superior balance, boosted immunity, proper digestion, restored sense of calm, and a delightful smelling home.
Welcome to Radiant Retreat Tanning and Spa in Mandan, where a relaxing spa experience meets the latest in healing innovations. Take total control of your massage in our Hydro Massage Bed. Experience whole body healing in our Zero Body Cryo Bed. Let our salt sauna and halo generator restore your respiratory and skin health. And of course, tailored tanning will keep you looking as good as you feel. Discover your best self at Radiant Retreat, 1307 1st Street Northeast, Mandan.
We're from North Dakota, where 12,000 workers bring electricity to 2 million customers and provide over $5 billion in economic activity to the state, while reclaiming 22,000 acres of land. This is coal country.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View, and in this segment and next segment, the later side, we're going to be show our patriotism, show our love of the United States, yay, USA, USA. And I think it's so sad that between the Democrats and the Republicans, the Democrats 20 years ago were pretty close to Republican young people in how they felt American, proud to be an American, or disliked or hated your country. And now, all of a sudden, in the last 20 years, the Democrats, by and large, are anti-America. So, like, what happened? And They're voting in socialists. What happened in the last 20 years? And I think it's interesting too. So I was looking at different news reports and reading up on it and looking at some videos. And I thought, now wait a minute, how do they become so anti-American? They had their own Democrats in office. Obama for 8 years, Biden for 4 years, and they became anti-American under Democrat leaders. So what does that tell you? That tells you that negativity and that hatefulness of the country is coming from within their party, not to say, universities too, especially Ivy League. But here we are, it's our 250th year anniversary, July 4th. If you've been watching the World Cup videos from people from all over, just going crazy over the United States, falling in love with this country, saying our media lied to us. We love the United States. This is amazing. They're excited about ice, clean bathrooms,
So again,
Walmarts.
the World Cup it's like COVID. It's like working against them again. We were supposed to be so terrible.
And they're finding out for themselves that they were lied to. And that's going to go back to their country. But let's look at this this little clip about Democrats and not celebrating the 4th.
Candidates and their voters just don't have the same zeal and affection for America. They don't appreciate the freedom that we have in this country. They're not even going to celebrate on July 4th. There's a new Gallup NBC poll that came out. Did you see that? Only 29% of Democrat voters that they polled said they're proud to be an American. What happened to the Democrat Party? They compared the poll from just 20 years ago, where it was 90%, because that's where Republicans are, above 90%. 29%. Over half of Democrats now say they would rather live in another country. What a split screen we're seeing. Right now, we're triumphantly hosting the World Cup games all around the country. And we're seeing people from different countries come and get a little taste of America, a little taste of freedom, of our culture and our society, and they appreciate it so much more than these socialists running for Congress. Fans across the country are truly enjoying our world-class facilities and the incredible atmosphere on the field and off the field. Thanks to social media, we're seeing a lot of these. This has been encouraging to see. The visitors appreciate what we have. Dutch travelers are in all Buc-ee's. German players took a midnight trip to the Waffle House. It's the greatest thing they've ever seen. English fans are roaming the Everglades. Japanese tourists marveling over free chips and salsa at a Mexican restaurant in Texas. Don't forget your blessings. People from Europe and Latin America, many countries around the world, many of whom, here's the key, they grew up under repressive state-controlled economies. They've never known freedom. They've never known these kinds of things. And they're seeing them for themselves, the genius of America's system. A system that rewards risk takers and entrepreneurs and job creators and innovators and people who create jobs for others and expand the economy and opportunity and broaden the pathway out of poverty for more people. That's what the Republicans stand for. That's what French Hill fought for in the housing bill, to give more people a chance, to restore the American dream. That's what we promised to the voters, and that's what we are delivering. The irony is, and it is a sad irony, and I'm so disturbed this morning. Y'all know me, I'm a happy warrior. I like to be optimistic and happy. This is a very disturbing trend. Visitors around the world marvel at what our free system of free enterprise has built, while rising socialist, Marxist, Democrat candidates are trying to tear the system down. That's what they told you in their campaign speeches. That's what they want to do. They want to tear it down.
Couple quick headlines. Forget Trump. This is in the USA Today. Forget Trump. Democrats have lost faith in America itself. They're becoming anti-American. And then Fetterman, who is a senator in Pennsylvania, he warns of a rise of dirtbag left amid victories by Democratic socialists in New York. And then here's a socialist in New York, a Mandami-backed candidate who just won her primary. And she said, I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me. These are the people that are leading the left into the gutter, while the rest of us, now here's the Scots. The Scots have come here for the World Cup, and oh my gosh, the Scottish people, they hadn't won in over 30 years, maybe close to 40 years, soccer to get to the World Cup, and they're so excited to be here. They love America, and they know our national anthem. Watch a little clip of this.
You know what I love about like social media right now? Because the news cannot hijack this and show, because they're putting it all out there on X and Instagram and Facebook and everything like that. And so it's becoming so popular, so people are looking it up. But the news, the regular media cannot hijack that. People from other countries are saying, oh gosh, the media lied to us. This place is amazing. So maybe we need to switch the people that are wiping their hands on the flag, putting it upside down, burning it. Maybe they can just swap out and say, we'll exchange. You can have our passport and we'll take your US one. That's how we can figure it out.
There you go. The door is open.
The door is open.
Because we are a free country. We don't shoot people when they climb over the wall.
No.
Or in in Korea, North Korea. You can go anywhere you want. If you hate it so much, leave.
Yes.
Right. I threw up in my mouth about that politician, so-called politician, saying, I almost can't say it, that she wiped her hands on our flag. I mean, it's our flag. It almost brings tears to my eyes. It's what we stand for. It's why we do this. And also I've noticed such a disregard from the left for our veterans and for our people that are in military service and our first responders, the people that keep us safe. They're saying F the police, but the first time their car gets broken into or their house gets broken into, well, you better not call the police then. And hey, I'm sorry if you have a heart attack, because don't call the ambulance.
Yeah.
Don't forget that's part of it too. And God forbid your house is on fire from all the lies you're spreading.
Well, remember, there's no morals and values. If you talk to that lady, I mean, who does she believe in? Who knows? It's many gods, or she's, or no God. They don't have any. They have nothing. No morality in their life. Nothing to.
There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of tearing down. And you look at the socialism, which is kind of where a lot of the anti-American is coming from, where they just want to tax, and it's against capitalism. It's against what our country offers, and the people we're seeing it through the eyes of these other people appreciating our country like we never have before. I've traveled to different countries, and I forget how great we are and how easy, where there's bathrooms everywhere, there's cold drinks and ice, and everything's clean, and you expect people to give you good service because that's what we do here. You don't go to other countries and get that.
No. And, like in other countries too, I love hearing, like when I was in Chile, they were like, wow, Americans are nice. We didn't think you guys were nice, and it was just weird. And in France, the same way, because I was dreading going to France because they don't like Americans, right? Well, I mean, after you've been there a couple of days, people realize you work hard and that you're nice, right? And then they're nice to you. Right?
Well, it's mostly in Paris they are mean because they don't like you not speaking French.
We take so many things for granted here. And, if you don't want to be here, don't be here.
Well, but you're seeing the difference between the Republican and the Democratic Party. And over the last 20 years, to see more and more Democrats becoming anti-American, even when they were the ones that were in power. What does that say? It's like, wake up, you people. That the more negative you are, you have a shorter lifespan, you're less happy, you're more likely to get dementia. Come on, join the party. Even if you're Democrat, try to be happy and like our country. We're going to talk a little bit more about that for the lighter side, so don't go away.
Silver's been used as an antibacterial and antifungal agent for centuries. In the history of no pharmaceutical has ever cured anything. Our silver works outside the cell versus inside the cell. So ours steals the electron from the bacteria, fungus, or virus, destroying the cell wall, destroying the bacteria, fungus, or virus on contact. People use it for pretty much everything.
Scan the code on your screen or visit mychronicsilver.com and use code LADIES for 10% off your order. That's mychronicsilver.com.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
Welcome to where classy meets Wild West. Buffalo Gypsy Boutique of Bismarck has clothing, decor, and gifts ranging from sophisticated boho style to fun and flashy. Our exclusive brands such as Scully, Double D Ranch, and Tanner Mark provide standout style for the whole family, right down to the little ones. We always have a great selection of Kimes denim, and we proudly offer American-made jewelry and artwork. Find Buffalo Gypsy classing up North Bismarck just off Highway 83.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View, and welcome back to the lighter side. And I just can't get enough of all the videos I've been seeing on the World Cup and people falling in love with the U.S. But I came across a video, this is before the World Cup, where a Southern student of the U.S., Brinlin Hollyhand, he talked about his experience of backpacking through Europe. And I did that years ago, and it was a long time ago. So it's interesting to see this young student of today comparing the conversations he's having in Europe with what he sees with his fellow college students. Watch this.
This morning I was boarding a crowded metro, and a French college student told me that if it wasn't for you Americans, we'd all be speaking German. So she prays every morning to thank God for America. Well, a week ago, I was on a college campus doing one of our Q&As, and an American student told me something a little different. He said that he prays every night, that God wipes America off the face of the planet. That contrast right there should tell you everything you need to know about my generation. I've spent the past month backpacking through Europe with some of my college buddies. We've gone through Paris and Hamburg and Amsterdam and London. Europe is beautiful. The history is incredible. These buildings are older than our entire nation. But you know what I noticed? So many young Europeans here seem exhausted. They seem cynical. They're afraid to speak freely about faith or their ideas of government, less optimistic about their future, because the socialist government here hands them everything, so they also tell them what to say and think. They all dream of America and tell us that because they hear my southern accent. Why? Because we're not a country built on bloodlines or kings. We're a country built on an idea that rights come from God, not from government, that ordinary people can still challenge power, that freedom belongs to everybody. Meanwhile, back home in America, Americans can't stop hating on our own country. I'm a college freshman, and I spend most of my time surrounded by people in packed lecture halls who talk about America like it's a disease instead of the greatest experiment in self-government ever created. On too many of our campuses, patriotism is treated like a personality flaw. Faith gets mocked as backwards. Free markets are blamed for every single inconvenience in life. Students that are born into the most prosperous and opportunity-filled nation in human history walk around acting like they're victims because of it. No, America's not perfect, but after spending the past few weeks overseas with some of my college buddies, I'm coming home a little bit more convinced than ever. There is no place on earth like the United States of America. So maybe for our 250th, we should be more grateful than guilty of our country. Maybe we should take Reagan's warning that freedom is just one generation away from extinction, and maybe fight to be able to hand a better America to our kids than one that we feel guilty for. Just an idea, live from the streets of Paris.
Isn't that good?
I love it. That's just so wonderful.
Well, I just think he said it right there. They are telling us what to think. And that is, I mean, through and through, you in high school or going to college, They are telling you what to think, and they get praise for being that loudest, obnoxious, you know, putting everybody down if they have a faith in God and if they respect our country. Then it's okay to make fun of them or be louder and say, you know, but you can never question the people that are putting you down. You can never question them because they have nothing to back it up. Ever, ever, ever.
I am so glad I moved to North Dakota because I don't feel like it's a character flaw at all to love Jesus or to be a patriot. And don't you dare come to me with any of your non-Jesus. And, you know, I'll be respectful, but you can't be mad at me for loving Jesus, right? You also don't come at me because I will be mad at you if you are anti-American, right? I will be. Like, I have some boundaries, right? We need to be thankful for our country, thankful for our rights, thankful for the food on our table, for, I'm hearing even people turning on their air conditioning. And I'm like, do you know how much of a luxury? How many places don't have air or heat, right? Anywhere. And the safe food we have to eat. You know, the fact you have a pet is amazing because a lot of people can't even have kids and they don't have the money to even afford that. Like, we live in the best place on earth, and that was the most amazing clip, and I want you to send it to me.
There's so much control, and so many times when I've been looking at what's happening in Australia and the UK and Canada, I say, thank you for the American Revolution. God bless America. So this is our 250th birthday, and it's been such a birthday gift. A birthday gift that we've had the World Cup here, and we're seeing our country. Even if we loved our country before, we're even appreciating all the more, seeing how much other people in the world are loving us. So thank you for joining us. We love you. We're glad you joined us, and we'll be back next time with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
We are the St. Mary Sisters. We are building a new facility here in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the sake of training young women to be courageous teachers in this state. The sisters will educate the younger generation to be fully alive through truth and discipline. The sisters' life of devotion and joy will make a positive difference in your community. Check out what we're up to, see what's going on, and join our mission to make a difference in the lives of the children of North Dakota.
I'm Gary Emineth, host of Open Range. We've been at this for the past couple years. Representative Matt Heilman of Bismarck and former legislator Brandon Pritchard are going to do some regular segments on Open Range. While we cover a lot of politics, we're still going to be continue doing mostly all things North Dakota. One exception, Friday evening, I'll be doing a new show on Open Range called On the Horn. This show will be long interviews of 3 to 5 hours with the people I'm interviewing. They'll be airing week after week on that Friday evening. So thank you for being a part of the Beck TV and Open Range family.
Come on in and experience small town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. The Set Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
I'm Corey Heppola, and a long time ago I left my small town for a big city. Now I wonder, what would it be like to move rural?
Just because we're small doesn't mean we can't have nice things.
This is my town.
Man, it's mad love up in here.
Sunday night, 6:30 on Beck TV.